is almost like a sanctified term. And it's because the organization spent so many years developing brand. We are differentiated in the market today because of what we call QDR, quality, dependability, and reliability. That is our brand. I can't tell you how many times I have been in a meeting with executives where so much of what I've done in my past at Toyota, I've been there over 20 years, has to do with compliance. Oftentimes with compliance, the only way to motivate executives is to tell them that, you know, we could lose a lot of money because we could get sued, we could get penalized. Somebody could go to jail, right? Those concepts, those motivational concepts do not get half of the response that I get if I say it could damage our brand. All of a sudden everybody sits up in the room and says, oh no, we can't have that happen. Brand is almost like personal integrity, right? If you lose your personal integrity, it takes a lot to get it back. We actually find ourselves in a little bit of that kind of situation right now. I'm sure you read the papers, especially if you read the Los Angeles Times every single day, practically for the last month. There is an article about Toyota and how we've had to recall vehicles. Now, yes, that's a bad situation. Have other companies suffered recalls like this? Yes, they have, quite a bit actually. And I remember the glorious past when I would open the paper and read about GM or Ford or Chrysler and all of their recalls, and I would think, oh, that must be really tough. Well, now I know how tough it is. It is very, very difficult, especially because QDR was our brand and probably will maintain that level. And I actually think that it will maintain that because we did not forget about the other things that are important, which is people, right? We have not forgot about contributing to the community. Toyota was the first large corporation to donate $500,000 to Haiti. We were the very first, bam. We just said, you know what, let's get together, we'll put the money and we'll get it together. Sent it to 3 different organizations, Red Cross, and I can't remember the other 2. Which one? Doctors Without Borders. And some of them. Anyway, good organizations, we knew the money would be used properly, but we do the right thing by people. Because again, remember the 2 pillars. Kaizen, which is basically innovation, and people. And I think we will have some making up to do, to be honest. We will have some rebuilding of that trust that comes from our brand. And we will get there, because believe me, we believe in protecting brand about as much as we believe in protecting it. If we had the crown jewels, that's the crown jewels. So we are taking the right steps. But it has been difficult, and at least we have got the belief or the somewhat of a trust element that stays with people because they've seen us go through little bumps in the past and then make the right corrections, do the right thing. So it's actually the sustainability piece, right? You will be able to sustain your brand if you are doing the right thing with your people, internally and externally, because they'll know. People don't forget. If you did something that impacted their lives in a positive way, okay, so you have a little issue with your pedals. Okay, so we're gonna fix the pedals. But brand is a very, if you can establish, if you as entrepreneurs can establish a meaningful brand, whatever it doesn't have to be QDR. It can be something entirely different. But whatever your brand is, remember that you have to have people somehow included and structured within your strategy. You can't just be a thing-based, action-based organization. You have to be people-based. You have to be people-aware, internally and externally.
And to Andrea's point, I thought of this when I saw the recall for Toyota. How many of you remember Johnson & Johnson in the early 80s when 8 people passed away in Chicago, 10, we all remember that.
How
They
about
survived,
Johnson
yeah.
last week.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But even back then, when everybody, they lost millions of dollars and everybody thought, oh my goodness, J&J's done. If anything, eventually they became stronger. Now what happened is they were innovative and they changed, and now we have tampered resistance, bottling, and so out of that negative, they took full accountability. Later on it came out that it was someone who just literally went into a drugstore in Chicago and tampered with 8 bottles or 7 bottles, whatever it was, and these people died. But they took full accountability. They opened up some 1-800 hotlines, and they went above and beyond in the early 80s. So they took a hit, they lost millions and millions of dollars. They're the kind of money, the kind of company that can survive that. But what happened is they exceeded everybody's expectation, and their brand just grew stronger because of what they did and how they reacted. It was all about people. So it's funny because when I saw that about Toyota, I thought the same thing. I said, Toyota's going to be just like J&J. It's going to be fine because they already have that people factor in their model. So, and that has nothing to do really with diversity. It's just how a big corporation handled itself and did the right thing when all the other companies would have done what, and we've seen this happen. They blame it on somebody. Oh, but somebody went into a drugstore and did, let's go find that person. It was the right thing to do. It was different, and look at how they are now. They're the leader. They're the number one. Tylenol will be number one probably for as long as we'll remember. But that just goes to show how when a company does what Toyota's doing, for instance, it's going to more than survive. It's going to thrive. And I think most of us, we're going to be loyal to those companies.
Good point. Just to close out this question, I put a lot of thought into it, and it actually reflected on my own career and at IBM. One of the things that is you need to have clarity on what you're going to do on diversity. A lot of companies do it because it looks good on paper, so they create these initiatives, and they never really run well, so they fall apart. So the word I want to leave with you today is commitment. Corporations that really stand behind diversity, you see them attending Chambers of Commerce events. They work with the different diverse groups. They get involved. Their CEOs, their executives, their staff, everybody participates. Why? Because it's an impact on their business growth. Diversity does impact your bottom line. If you take a group and you say, we're not going to support you, believe me, that group will get word out, especially now with social media, and they'll boycott your products. And we have seen examples out there where groups have been very moved because of religion, because of their beliefs, and they've said, we're no longer going to support you. So the thought I want to leave with you again is commitment. If you're going to get involved with diversity, you want to improve your program, just make sure you stand behind it. I'd like to open it up now for a Q&A. I'd like to hear from you, from the audience, some questions you may have for our panelists regarding diversity.
The question is based on the word diversity, for what I understood it before. Now you're going from cross-cultural, cross-generational, and also cross-training, as Daryl mentioned, being engineers. The investment that a lot of the large corporations can do, that in most of the talk that I've been hearing is mostly to the middle level and above level management. But how do you then incorporate in especially, and I'm coming from the multicultural cultural growing up and believe there's certain corporations, especially right now with the economic environment, that some, how do you bring them in, as Andres was mentioning, into that grouping, empowering them from the bottom up, not from the middle up, which is a lot easier to communicate than to those that are the employees that are at the very bottom of the totem pole, I would say.
Yeah, go ahead. Just give you some insight into